Serving all of San Diego, this is your Fox 5 News.
Hello and welcome to Fox News. I'm Roman Alcazar.
And I'm Mammy.
And today we have a special program on the Cold War because of its 20th year anniversary, December 25th.
For those of you IB History 2 students that didn't take Miss Battenfield's class or just simply slept through it, this is for you.
What was the root of the Cold War and its first problems?
Well, Roman, Wikipedia says it all led from the Big Three conferences between Roosevelt, Stalin, and Churchill. The conferences were in Tehran 1943, Yalta 1945, and Potsdam in 1945.
That's right, Kelly. In fact, it were these conflicts that lay the foundations for the issues in the future between the leaders.
Here's an artist rendition.
That was majestic. After that, Kennan's long telegram came out with the policy of containment of communism and just truly established the rivalry between capitalism and communism. They were just,
I think Kevin Hale put it best.
That's right.
They were just button heads.
Good idea. So they start button heads, like we were button heads.
The man's pretty much a genius.
He also has a beautiful analysis on the Iron Curtain speech in 1946.
Alright, let's get down to the conflicts with Russia that were happening in Greece and Turkey. What do you know about that?
Well, Roman,
Yeah.
Lucky for us, I just stumbled upon it. So basically, Stalin wants territorial concessions in Turkey and wanted representation in Greece.
Dude, you need to change your stumble upon settings.
Ms. Battenfield would be proud.
True that. The U.S. combated this with the Truman Doctrine through financial aid for Turkey.
Similarly, the Marshall Plan aided Europe. This was in 1947.
If you happen to be taking a test in Battenfeld on this,
Write that down.
write that down. Alright, before we continue, let's cut to local news with the weather.
Hi, this is Karen Smith. It's 68 degrees, and there's a 30% chance that it's already raining.
Then in 1948, there was the coup in Czechoslovakia. During this time, Stalin approved the dirty commies to go in and take down the democratic government of the Czechs.
Chickadee, check yourself before you wreck yourself.
Couldn't have said it better myself, Mammy. Let's get a video from one of our sponsors.
Hello, ladies. Look at your man. Now back to me. Now back at your man. Now back to me. Sadly, he isn't me. But if he stopped using lady-scented body wash and switched to Old Spice, he could smell like he's me. Look down. Back up. Where are you? You're on a boat with the man your man could smell it. What's in your hand? Back at me. I have it. It's an oyster with 2 tickets to that thing you love. Look again. The tickets are now diamond. Anything is possible when your man smells like Old Spice and not a lady. I'm on a horse.
Welcome back. Alright, for those of you who know me well, you know that I love Tosh Pointo. One of the things that Tosh does on his show is says as many jokes as he can about a video in 20 seconds. So, going off the great video maker, I'm going to be saying as many Cold War definitions as I can in 1 minute. Mammy?
Alright, 3, 2, 1.
The Berlin blockade and airlift in 1948 and 1949 was the U.S. giving food and supplies to non-Soviet Union Berlin. In 1949, the Comcon was an agreement between the Soviet Union satellites and itself for interdependent economy. NATO, 1949, was the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, a military alliance with the U.S. and other nations. The Chinese Civil War, 1945 through 1949, was Mao Zedong, who won against the Kuomintang rise and won. Rise of McCarthyism in the 1950s was blacklisting Americans, specifically those in Hollywood and the government, accusing them of being communists. The Korean War, 1950 through 1953, was Southern Korea versus North Korea. The U.S. took the side of the South, and the Soviet Union took the side of the North. Eisenhower was elected in 1952, Stalin dies in 1953, and Khrushchev comes to power. Also, Guatemala in 1954 is when the U.S. led a coup against them, overthrowing Haboko Guzman. Boom! Ladies and gentlemen, that's how we do it on Fox News. I need to cool down. We just broke through so many definitions. I hope you caught them all. Write that down. Let's take a commercial. Commercial.
Hi, it's Fitz with Slap Chop. You're going to be in a great mood all day because you're going to be slapping your troubles away with the Slap Chop. You're going to love my nuts. Watch this. Almonds, walnuts, comes with a cover, so you can do everything in the cover, all right? Or you can do it on the board, whatever you'd like. It's so easy, one finger. If I can do it with one finger, you guys can do it with your whole hand. Kids can do it. We're going to make America skinny again, one slap at a time.
It's very quick.
Welcome back, San Diego. Still classy as ever.
Up next, we have a very exclusive interview with internet sensation Jimmy, the Frat Guy.
Let's show him.
Alright, we would like to welcome our very established guest, Jimmy, the Frat Guy, and just thank you so much for being here.
May we ask you a few questions for your historical expertise?
Yeah, of course you can.
Some say the Warsaw Pact of 1955 was simply a response to NATO.
I don't really like to put it that way.
Wasn't it though? Weird. Next question. Jimmy. The Hungarian Revolt in 1956, led by the student uprisings, protested against the communist leadership. If you were a student in that time, would you join the protests in the militia?
No. I'm in a frat.
Alright, Jimmy. Eisenhower and his doctrine promoted economic aid to threatened nations. Do you think it's right for the U.S. to clean other people's messes up?
I party way too hard to clean up after myself.
Good metaphor.
It's just what I do.
Russia was successful in the first launch of a satellite into space with Sputnik. What's your opinion on this situation?
It's ridiculous.
Was this the start to the space race?
What?
That is, the U.S. and the USSR continually trying to outdo each other in the space exploration?
Someone once told me it's a marathon, not a sprint. I sprint marathons.
Let's talk about the U-2 incident. When the reconnaissance plane was shot down in the Soviet Union, was it right for them to take hostage of the pilot, Gary Powers?
Whatever. We all have haters.
Please tell us about the Cuban Revolution from 1951 to 1961, where Castro formed bonds with the USSR. Okay, but really, share your insights.
You're not getting any of them.
I'm sorry, but it seems to me like you don't know anything about the Cold War. Do you even know where Cuba is?
It's f***ing close to water.
Good enough for us.
Alright, thanks for being with us, Jimmy.
Crisis Corner! Crisis Corner!
That's right, Mammy. This is where we just talk about the crises of the Cold War. We'll start with the Congo crisis in 1960 through 1964 with Patrice Lumumba, who gained political power as Prime Minister of the Congo. Due to his actions, he was assassinated, although finally the crisis ended when General Sese Seko Mobutu took over the Congo.
In the Berlin crisis of 1961, Khrushchev gave the ultimatum to all the Western powers to get out of Berlin. Khrushchev threatened to sign a peace treaty with East Germany that the world deny the access to West Berlin of the other powers. Finally, the Berlin Wall was made.
The Cuban Missile Crisis in 1962 was when the Soviets placed missiles in Cuba. We were on the brink of nuclear war, and it ended with the U.S. agreeing to take missiles out of Turkey and to never invade Cuba if and only if the Soviets take out all the nuclear weapons in Cuba.
Wow, with all these crises, I'm stressed out. Let's take a quick break with sports.
Dawg, he put the team on his back. Dawg, let's go inside the mind of a Greg Jennings.
Welcome back to the Revolution Room. where we discuss the revolutions of the Cold War.
Let's start with the Chinese Cultural Revolution of the 1960s. Basically, the people of China questioned the totalitarian government and to get rid of all old traditions to get a true, pure form of communism. They destroyed books and knocked down statues that were disloyal to true communism. It was a disaster, resulting in millions dead, and the government ceased to function all the way until 1969.
Yikes. Well, since Jimmy, our frat guy, didn't exactly tell us everything about the Cuban Revolution, we will. From 1953 to 1959, Castro overthrew the previous dictator, Fulgencio Batista. From 1959 to 1961, economic and social reforms were implemented.
Wow, all this revolting. I think we need a snappy little commercial for our sponsors.
Let's take a view.
I'm thrilled to be here, Denise. Why don't we get started?
Absolutely.
So no one wants to play with dirty equipment. That's why you have to keep your balls clean. Problem is, bar of soap just doesn't cut it. See? Still dirty.
Well, how can guys clean their balls so that they're more enjoyable to play with?
Well, there's finally a tool that can really get the job done. The Axe Detailer. Cleans your balls.
Welcome back. Let's just delve into some more fun, interesting events of the Cold War.
So, pick back up your pens and pencils, borrow a sheet of paper from Emma Weinberger, and pay somewhat close attention.
Following our journey about the Cold War, the next major event was the infamous Bay of Pigs, in which the United States had an utter failure when they trained exiled Cubans to start a revolution against Castro, but they were immediately captured.
Awkward. Well, meanwhile, the Nuclear Test Ban Treaty of 1963 was an agreement with the U.S. and the Soviet Union and the UK to never test nuclear weapons anywhere except underground. What else do we got, Manny?
Well, we tried to avoid it. We considered just skipping it, playing a clip from Forrest Gump, and even just showing a screenshot at Yahoo Answers. But we figured there's just no way around it. We need to explain the Vietnam War.
I guess you're right. Okay, here goes. SparkNote version right here. Basically, Ho Chi Minh was North Vietnam leader, and then Ngo Dinh Diem ruled the South. The South was helped by the U.S., the North was helped by the USSR. War started in 1963.
For the most part, guerrilla war tactics were used. There were two phases to the Vietnam route to independence. One, the attempt to eliminate French colonial presence in 1954, and the attempt of North Vietnamese to eliminate further Western influence and establish a unified Vietnamese state.
William Westmoreland, the chief general in Vietnam, was the man responsible for the military strategy. He told the people that they were winning when really they weren't. Charlie Sheen much?
Wow, winning.
This is the credibility gap. The gap between what they said was true and what was actually true. The Tet Offensive of 1968 broke this gap and showed the public actually what was going on. It was a military win for the U.S., but a political loss at that. This is one of the reasons the youth revolts of the 1960s arose. Students were questioning the government.
In conclusion, for the Vietnam War, we lost. Hard.
And now traffic.
Fantastic traffic report. Back to our special program on the Cold War. Let's hear about the Prague Spring.
Well, Roman, in 1968, it was a period of political liberalization in Czechoslovakia.
Great summary.
I mean, I try.
Later, in 1969, Nixon announced détente policy. This was the easing of the Soviet-U.S. tensions. This was done by respecting spheres of influence, banning direct warfare, and even permitting each side to verify the other's military capabilities in the interest of trust. The Helsinki Accords in 1975, a part of détente, was signed by 35 nations recognizing the borders of Europe at the end of World War II.
Well put. The centerpiece of this détente was SALT I, the Strategic Arms Limitation Treaty in 1972. It capped the number of ICBMs and SLBMs. This legitimated the concept that security came from MAD, mutually assured destruction. The agreement was incomplete, though.
Well, later in 1979, SALT II was signed by Carter and Brezhnev. It limited nuclear weapons on both sides. It was very difficult to negotiate due to Carter's consistent support for human rights established by his human rights doctrine, which included the Panama Canal Treaty.
Truly fascinating stuff. Cut to commercial.
I've fallen, and I can't get up.
Hello, and welcome back to the Cold War. The next huge stage was the Watergate scandal in 1974. Nixon sent in plumbers that were burglars to the Watergate Hotel to find out information on the Democratic Party to ensure re-election. Ironically, once exposed, it led to his resignation through pardon by his replacement, Gerald Ford.
I guess that makes him not a crook. After that, the Angolan Civil War occurred in 1976 to 1991. It was a conflict after Angola became independent from Portugal in 1975. Many civil organizations fought to gain political domination of the country. The Soviet Union and Cuba supported the NPLA, while the U.S. supported UNITA.
Wow, I bet if any IB history class students were watching right now, they're barely hanging in there. Stay away, guys. Here's a funny video to keep you alert.
Ouch. Instead of a cannonball, he went for the can opener.
Now back to work. The Iran hostage crisis, essentially from 1979 to 1989. Islamic students and militants took over the American embassy in Tehran, and 52 Americans were taken hostage.
This symbolized the deteriorating relationship between the U.S. and Iran. Another Cold War event in the Middle East was the Soviet invasion of Afghanistan in 1980. This was a major decay in détente because Carter responded with withdrawing SALT II, cutting trade with the USSR, increasing military spending, and boycotting the 1980 Olympics.
Treachery. Later that year, the Solidarity Movement began. This was the Polish trade union that fought for workers' rights and social changes.
Absolutely riveting. In 1980s, the Reagan administration's policy of peace through strength resulted in the U.S. forces helping Nicaragua, El Salvador, and Guatemala. This displayed Reagan's rigid policies during the Cold War.
Alright, before we continue our Cold War special, let's get a glimpse from our on-site local news reporter.
Well, obviously we have a rapist in Lincoln Park. He's climbing in your windows. He's snatching your people up, trying to rape them. So y'all need to hide your kids, hide your wife, and hide your husband because they're raping everybody out here.
The attacker got loose and went out the upstairs window, but he did leave something behind.
We got your T-shirt. You done left fingerprints and all. You are so dumb. You are really dumb. For real.
Great journalism right there.
Well, back to the Cold War. In 1982, START negotiations began between the Soviet Union and the United States. They were delayed several times because Soviet Union leaders before Gorbachev did not agree to the arms limitation offered through the negotiations.
When Gorbachev came to power in 1985, he tried to reform communism with glasnost, openness, and perestroika, economic reconstruction.
With Gorbachev in power, he and Reagan had lovely little talks with their interpreters in Geneva, Reykjavik, Moscow, and Washington, D.C. In one of the meetings, the INF Treaty was signed, which eliminated intermediate and shorter-range missiles.
The Solidarity Party won in 1989, and Lech Walesa became the president of the party. Soon after that began the disintegration of the communist power in Poland. The Berlin Wall fell in 1989 partly because of the protesting from the German citizens, although ultimately deconstruction was influenced by the Soviet and U.S. pressures on the GDR, marking the reunification of Germany.
Well, also, Roman, the Velvet Revolution in 1985 in Czechoslovakia, which occurred when students and other popular demonstrators protested against the Communist Party of Czechoslovakia. leading to its collapse. This symbolized the beginning of the downfall of the Soviet Union.
That's right, the Velvet Revolution in 1989. Meanwhile, the demonstrations in Tiananmen Square occurred due to the death of a CPC General Secretary, Hu Yaobang, one who supported political freedom.
Well, wrapping up things in the Cold War, the fall of the Soviet Union happened despite Gorbachev's reforms. His three crises, clash of the ethnic groups, the economic stagnation, and the political criticism all brought him and the Soviet Union down in 1991.
To conclude our Cold War special, made just for teens, we would like to give a modern American perspective. Basically, it was a dangerous time. Humanity was at the brink of destruction. We look at the Cold War now as proof of the success of the American ideology over communism. If you would like more information, take a look at our specially compiled quotes and photo gallery.
Or read Gaddis. Well, no, but really. Well, that concludes our news report. Stay classy, San Diego.